All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me.
Good afternoon, Victoria Taft. I'm your adult in the room. And people look at me and they go, oh, but hey, she's not like young and cute and everything. Well, guess what? I'm older and cute. So I'm just saying that because I've had people do double takes. Like, I didn't think you were going to be, because I don't act my age. That's why. Anyway, lots to talk about today. In fact, we are going to talk with Real Black Rebel about the streets of Portland, Oregon, and the person that he saw out there over the weekend. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, which I think is interesting because it's not every day that somebody of his level gets there. So we'll do that. Also, in addition to that, we're going to talk about boys and men. What's going on? The reason I bring it up is because we found out that Thomas Crooks, the guy who wanted to kill President Trump on July 13th in Butler, PA, turns out he was a sexually confused weirdo, just like a lot of other would-be and successful, if you will, killers. And it seems to me that that's a problem. Is it just me or is it anyway, we have a guest about Boys and Men, an organization that looks at boys and men and how we can better help them in this country. So we'll be doing that in just a second. But I have to tell you that we had an interesting perspective on what has gone on after we read, Tucker Carlson did a story, a approximately 30-minute episode of his podcast. And then in addition, we got more information about what Thomas Crooks was doing from Miranda Devine of the New York Post. And all of it is stuff we've never heard before. All of it was stuff we would have guessed, but we didn't know because the FBI didn't tell us. Why have they been either committing acts of omission or commission? Those are lies by any other word. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now here I've got a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Put it up. Put it up. Put it up. And it's this. Who was at Portland Ice the other night? We're going to get an update. And let's check.
When they sentenced me to 22 years, were they outside the prisons? Were they outside Freedom Corridor and the DC Gulag? They weren't. So I find it kind of hypocritical that they care more about people that aren't supposed to be here. I don't want to dehumanize those people. They just don't belong here.
Yeah, they just don't belong here. That's Enrique Tarrio. Enrique Tarrio is the leader of the Proud Boys. Now you're thinking, I swear, I heard Victoria say in a previous instance of the Adult Room podcast that Enrique Tarrio and other members of that group, as well as other people like them, Patriot Prayer, namely, had been basically PNG'd from Portland because they're going to finish what Antifa starts. And they basically had. That's one of the reasons why I get all the press releases from the cop shop in Portland. And that's interesting. What were they doing out there on Sunday night? Now I know. All right, we've got some contacts and what? Frank's got a question. Wasn't this confirmed already, or was I just a bigot who figured this out on my own? Frank, I know exactly what you're talking about. Frank, you figured it out on your own. It wasn't too hard to figure out that the guy who tried to kill the president had some real issues. However, you were right. And nobody else was. We could have guessed. We wondered. But Frank figured it out. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate the comment. You can comment. Let's see. We've joined Twitter live. So we're going to see what happens there. And Alex is monitoring the situation over there, which ought to be pretty interesting because, whatever. I get hate. I'm too reasonable. Yes, I'm conservative. Yes, I'm more of the right. But I've been a reporter for multi years. And so I do tend to want to give the benefit of the doubt to people who may or may not, in your eyes, deserve it. So, okay, so Enrique Tarrio was out at Portland. And one of the things he said was about, Cam Higbee got that video. God bless Cam Higbee. He's doing a great job. When he gets into Portland, he gets excellent video. It's just amazing. So thank you, Cam, for everything. Really appreciate that. And so I wanted to give him a shout out because I don't want to steal his stuff. I want him to get all the accolades. Be that as it may. So we're talking, as I said, about men and boys. And I had this comment that Enrique Tarrio had been asked by Cam Higbee. And it was about what he's doing out there and what Proud Boys is doing. And kind of interesting. Listen.
You say, what's the mission of the Proud Boys?
And I make better men. That's it. We're not a political group. We're not here. We're not like a militia. We're here to make better men. And to each one of these individuals, the guys around me, some guys that I won't name, they have a different outlook on how to make better men. So iron sharpens iron. And we just want to drink a beer with the boys and grill and celebrate Western civilization, make sure we maintain it.
That's interesting. And maintain Western civilization. Yeah. Well, that's what we're all about now. And unless you don't want to save your country, in which case I understand you just want to defeat everything and let chaos reign. Fine. We'll defeat you in the end. Hey, big man, say hi. Hey. Appreciate that comment to this afternoon on the Adult in the Room podcast. Okay, so we're live streaming. We live stream 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so we'll do it as long as we can. And that's the name of that tune. Okay, so men and boys. Why are they so troubled? Why do we have sexually confused weirdos? I mean, for lack of a better term, I'm sure that our guest will have something much nicer to call these people, but they're furry friendly and they're confused. Any number of things about their sexuality. Why is that? And why is it that the one guy on the national stage who was making this his mission,
he knew things were not right with America and especially with young people, and they needed a new direction. Charlie passionately wanted to reach and save the lost boys of the West. The young men who feel like they have no direction, no purpose, no faith, and no reason to live.
Oh.
The men wasting their lives on distractions and the men consumed with resentment, anger, and hate. He wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life.
And now we find out that the young man who tried to take out President Trump the first time around, July 13th, 2024, was a furry, curious, and confused sexual being.
These are videos the FBI has worked hard to make sure you haven't seen. They're from the Google Drive account of Thomas Crooks, the man who on July 13th, 2024, showed up at the Butler County, Pennsylvania fairgrounds and tried to assassinate the frontrunner, Donald Trump.
And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
That day, Thomas Crooks came within a quarter inch of destroying this country. And yet, a year and a half later, we still know almost nothing about him or why he did it. That's because, for some reason, the FBI, even the current FBI, doesn't want us to know.
Yeah, I wrote a piece recently in PJ Media about that. And for example, how his digital footprint was all over the place. Over 700 comments. He had, let's see, Discord. Hold on, I'm going to get my story. I'm doing that because if I try to share my screen with you, it's going to be a disaster, as it has been the last couple of times for me. So let's see. Online history back to 15 years old. He had YouTube, Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, Chess.com, Quora, and other. I think he's got other things as well. And the FBI said, "Oh no, he's a ghost on the interwebs. He's a ghost. We have no idea." I mean, he was very quiet. We had no idea what he was doing, and then he was talking about violent things to be done to first anti-Trump people, and then in 2020 he flips out. I guess he went nuts over COVID, and many people did, and became anti-Trump. So why didn't we know that? We only heard the other part of it, where the early comments that Thomas Crooks made were pro-Trump. Why didn't we hear the anti-Trump stuff? Why didn't Chris Wray explain that? Why is this a big secret? As our previous commenter, Frank, said, wasn't this confirmed already? Or was I just a bigot who figured this out on your own? You and everybody else wondering what happened to this man-child who tried to change the course of history. Edward Bartlett is a gentleman who's made men and boys his mission in life. And he is with an organization called the International Council for Men and Boys. And here we are at a crossroads of our country. And I ask you the question, what can we do to save our kids, our boys?
Victoria, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show, and thank you for raising this issue. So I'm going to say that you use the word crossroads. I would say it's more strongly. I would say we're in the middle of a struggle. Call it a fight for the soul of America. The soul of America is at stake here because we have this ongoing, use the word disputes, and sometimes enmity between male and female, between boys and girls, between men and women. And we have to resolve that issue. If we don't resolve it, our families will disappear. If our families disappear, the soul of America will disappear. So let's talk about, how did this come to pass? I've been around enough years, you can probably tell just by looking at the number of wrinkles on my face that
right there with you.
that I have a little perspective on that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, I'm going to go all the way back when the feminists invented the word patriarchy. Patriarchy, which of course is a very strong negative word, saying that just by virtue of being male, that makes me an oppressor.
I see. So it's a combo of hierarchy and the
right.
Well, I don't know. Now I don't know what else to say.
So I'm not going to go back 10,000 years because that would be fruitless.
Sure.
So let's go all the way back to the Titanic, right? You remember the story of the Titanic? Women and children first. And men who didn't go along with that were either simply, forced into the ocean or worse. So I would argue that the power of chivalry has been far more powerful than the existence of patriarchy. And I would even say farther, since that era of 100 years ago or so, there has been no patriarchy at all in our society. Our society is very driven by chivalry, by how do we help women, how do we, on and on and on. So I'm just trying to set the stage. We have a crisis. We have to address this crisis.
We do. There was a recent, I think it was a Gallup poll that said 40% of women, which are leftist women, want to leave the country, which I say, have fun.
I saw that.
But, here, I do want to know, because when you see things, for example, at the Portland ICE headquarters, where there are a bunch of picketers and Antifas out there and people are in costumes and all sorts of chicanery, there are a lot during the daytime. This is before Black Bloc gets there. A lot of older women, and These are the women who would want to leave the country, because they don't like Donald Trump, because they can't. Something wrong with them. But here's my question. Are those the people leading the revolution, the older women? Is that what's going on here? And Victor Davis Hanson says that the people who are watching this program right now, you and all you folks, all y'all over there in the comment section, we're the counter-revolution. You believe that?
Well, the people leading the revolution, and that's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
Yes, people are pushing for revolution in our country, and I don't think we should be in denial anymore.
No.
We truly are at a crisis situation.
They want to burn it all down.
And in my opinion, it's the feminists, especially the feminists who are who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Either they're never married or they're no longer married. They have no children. We know that 56% of all young feminists are clinically depressed or have a mental health problem. So mental health issues, factor into the issue very strongly. But yes, there are groups of people who do not have the interests of America at heart. They are trying to divide and conquer. And this goes all the way back to Karl Marx and his views of how he shaped the feminist mindset. For
power. That's the only outcome for them. They just want power because they think they can do better. Okay, more power to you, ladies, if you can do better. But I wonder, I do wonder. It seems to me that Charlie Kirk was onto something. And the other day, I saw a great kid. I say kid because everybody younger than me is a kid now. And we had him on the program last week, and he had a conversation. He's a former Antifa guy. He was conversing with a guy who's a former Black Bloc Portland Antifa guy. And these guys were revolutionaries, okay? And they wanted to fight the man, and they wanted to, put a monkey wrench in the machine. And both of them, now out and away from what they termed the cult, agreed that Charlie Kirk was the one guy who was able to communicate and say to men, young men, that which Enrique Tarrio can't necessarily, he can say it to him, but not everybody's going to buy it, because Charlie Kirk didn't end a conversation with a punch if somebody else punched him. Two different ways of saying the same thing, and both are acceptable, I think.
He was always a marvel to watch in action, and I really did admire his style. But I want to share with you another piece of very important data that goes back to my claim that patriarchy no longer exists in the United States. The fact is that men are lagging behind women on 12 different areas, from lifespan and suicide, enrollments in college, treatment by the legal system, homelessness, being victims of domestic violence. I don't want to fill up the whole show going up through the 12 points.
No, that's good. No, you know what? That's important. I want to hear that. People need to hear that. No, because that's ammunition for them to buttress their arguments. So I'm writing it down. I've seen your video on it at your website. But I think for our purposes, it would be excellent to go through it. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So I've already talked about, and this stuff is true globally. It's not just the U.S., but I'm just going to focus on the U.S. Men are living 5 years shorter than women, and that's been true for many years. Men's suicide rate is 4 times greater than women, and even teenage boys, you're seeing much higher suicide rates in teenage boys. Let's go to college enrollments. I believe it's about 60% female enrollments in colleges, 40% male. That's very troubling. There's what's called the boy crisis. This is a broad term that refers to boys that are becoming disconnected, are spending more time on their cell phones or their video games than they are interacting with their family or
with real people. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, right. I mentioned the issue of domestic violence. This is
that was a shocker.
CDC, Centers for Disease Control, reports that there are actually more male victims of domestic violence than female victims of domestic violence each year.
Wow.
And so again, we're breaking these stereotypes. Men are more likely to be victims of a false allegation. If you look at homelessness, it's 72% male, and anyway. And the last point I'll make is if you look at media portrayals of men, there was a big and this was on our website. There was a study done that found that the majority of media portrayals are negative. Okay, it's no longer father knows best or anything that's positive. It's dads who are stupid, who are bumblers, who can't walk in a straight line without falling down. I mean, the negative stereotypes are so pervasive. So it truly is stunning. So here's my question to those who believe there's a patriarchy. If there truly is a patriarchy, well, those patriarchs are doing one heck of a terrible job and helping all of those men who are dying 5 years earlier because nothing is being done to help those guys to avoid that premature death. So
well, and then Obamacare made sure that other people that our life expansion or our lifespan, she tried to say, was reduced even further for both men and women. So that didn't help. That's what happens with rationed healthcare, everybody. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Did you hear Michelle Obama recently talked about the fact that we just aren't ready for a woman president? And, she's not even going to bother, please don't even discuss this with me because it's the dumbest thing ever that you should even countenance the idea of a woman president because, doggone it, nobody's ready for it. And I thought, I'm pretty sure if we had a Maggie Thatcher type or somebody like the Japanese prime minister, did you see that woman walking next to Trump when he visited Japan? She was a badass. She was like so self-composed. She was, I looked at my husband and I go, that chick right there, look at her swagger. And he goes, yeah, he was going, you can get somebody good.
There was an island they established about 10 years ago called She Island off the coast of Finland. Did you ever hear about that?
Nope.
She Island?
I don't think so.
She Island, it was bought by a female entrepreneur, and she would only women were allowed to visit this island, right?
What?
Men were simply banned from. It was called She Island, and you can look it up on the internet. But irony of ironies, She Island went out of business a few years later because there weren't a whole lot of women that just wanted to go off by themselves and navel gaze and just be separate. I mean, the bottom line is the attraction between male and female is powerful, but it has been distorted and grievously harmed by this overlay of feminist ideology. Talking about misogyn. I mean, how many times a day do you hear the word misogyny? Can I?
A lot.
Yeah, me too. Every time I go on social media, I see it, but there's never any evidence. There's never any proof. Now here's the proof. Go online and just go to any AI program and ask, how many times have people used the word "kill all men" on Twitter?
Oh.
And then ask how many times have people used the word "kill all women"?
Ooh.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I've done that. I've actually gone to Grok and I've asked that question, and it's not like a 2-to-1 disparity. It's like almost nobody ever uses the phrase "kill all women,"
Absolutely
but
not.
"kill all men" is still a pretty popular phrase.
Yeah.
Now, if that's not proof that misandry is far more widespread than misogyny, I don't know
absolutely.
what is.
No, see, you said, I say misandry, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Misandry, same thing, same spelling. That's the hatred of men. And most people don't even know that word. I mean, not that we should know it, but neither should we be obsessed with
it properly, right?
I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. But okay. All right. So how can people get in touch with you? And and find out how they can. Well, before I let you go, I want to know like 3 things people should know about making men more, uh, what's the way to put it? I'm not going to say make men feel better, but just giving them their due.
I
How can
think
we
the
just
word acceptance, I think that's probably the key because men have been made to feel not accepted, have been made to feel defective,
Mhm.
oppressors, etc.
Yeah,
So I,
bumblers.
but I do want to, I've talked sort of about the crisis, but I haven't said anything about the most recent developments that give me a great deal of hope. All
Okay.
right. So, for men and guys, the the campaign and the election of Donald Trump, I think, will be seen as a turning point in the history of our nation because he was the first presidential candidate who truly reached out to the male electorate and made them feel wanted and appreciated. It wasn't just because he was talking about banning DEI;
No,
his whole demeanor. I mean, everything about him was positive. He projected a image of positive masculinity.
hold that thought. Here it is.
4 years ago, we took a wrong turn and lost our purpose. We lost the strength that makes Americans who we are. If we dared to speak the truth, it was called hate speech, and our values were labeled shameful. That's when everything we care about fell apart. We surrendered our borders, our paychecks, and our courage. Our patriotism was called toxic. Men could beat up women and win medals, but there was no prize for the guy who got up every day to do his job. Now we're being asked to settle for the way things are. And we're wondering if America can make a comeback. We can, because we've done it before. When we get knocked down, we don't stay down. We get up again. We fight. We fight. We fight.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I can't watch that without getting a little teary-eyed.
I was gonna, me too. Tears were coming to my eyes. So that's one piece of this notion that things are on the mend right now, but we still have a long way to go. So there is a great deal of hope for men and boys. Here's the other piece of this puzzle that also is really fascinating. And I'm holding up an article written by Helen Andrews. It came out in October. It's titled "The Great Feminization." Right?
Oh,
And
where was
people,
this?
it was in a obscure journal or that I had never heard of before. But this is changing the whole dialogue
Yes.
on gender because and here's a female criticizing the female dominance in law, in medical schools, and in other areas, and it's completely changed the narrative.
It has,
Okay,
and if you don't know that, Steve Hayes was talking about it on his podcast. Is that 3 Whiskey Happy Hour with John Yoo and Lucretia, and it was awesome. He was talking about that very thing, and I think he's going to write a little bit more about it, and it is essential reading. Absolutely, it struck you too, right?
it did. I mean, I've seen this in my own life, and without telling you the whole story, I've seen how this toxic feminization truly how it works, how it creates a sense of hysteria, a sense of group victimization, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
So anyway, so things are beginning to improve, be on the mend. Uh, Boys and men have a positive role model in the presidency of the United States, and feminists now are being told that there's some problems in that they need to look at the great feminization.
In the pedagogy, there's a problem in the pedagogy. Everybody, oh, you're awesome, Edward Bartlett. How can people get in touch with you and your organization?
Okay, so here's our website, International Council for Men and Boys, website www.menandboys.net, menandboys.net.
Men and
That
boys.
talks all about these 12 areas.
You know,
and we have lots and lots of information there to basically back up everything that I've said during this interview.
you're awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on, and
You
thank
are
you for the
too.
work.
Great to chat with you.
Yeah, great to chat with you. I like to keep it kind of lively, giving us all sorts of things to look at and ooh at,
Right.
and so I appreciate you playing podcast with me today. I appreciate
Okay.
it. Take
All
care.
good.
Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, lots going on. The House today decided that they would reveal all and the Jeffrey Epstein files. I've got more on that coming up after we speak with my new friend, who's real black rebel, Drew. I'm not going to even give you your real name. I mean, not even your last name. Drew, how's it going?
Going pretty good. Thank you for having me again.
Appreciate it. You were out at Portland over the weekend. You back home now, or what's going on?
Almost back home, just about.
Okay. All right. So I understand. Hold on a second. I think I might have a picture here. Oh, do you know that
Hey, yes, I do. Enrique.
Enrique Tarrio, I guess is he still the head of Proud Boys? And what was he doing out there? And what were you doing out there?
Part of the reason I went back out there again was one to see Enrique. We've been friends for quite some time now. We've done a lot of different events within this movement, dating all the way back to 2017. And so once I heard that he was going out, I just had to make that trip. It was good to see him.
What was he doing out there? Just standing around?
I think that's part of seeing people he hasn't seen in a long time. He stated that it's been 5 years, 2020, since he's been able to go out there to Portland, and so and just to get some documentation also to what's going on at the ICE facility, which was pretty mild this week.
Sure.
But
I think
another devastating loss.
Another devastating loss for the left, you mean? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying? Well,
their numbers have diminished a lot.
yeah. I mean, ever since Antifa was labeled a domestic terror organization, I think that's probably put a little kibosh on it. But also, I think the presence of more conservative people out there just giving them flack. Not even, not. I think of Tommy Boy, and I think of him yelling through his loudspeaker. I'm sorry. I think the people should be allowed to sleep, obviously, because we've talked about that on this program before. But I gotta say, I mean, I just laugh every time I think about him. I just laugh and laugh. Did you hear by any chance what Tommy Boy and a bunch of other folks went to the University of Oregon? And you weren't there, were you, to talk with people, Charlie Kirk style? And what happened was a person who's a paid staff member at the University of Oregon was handing out whistles to drown out the people who were trying to have a discussion with people on campus. How's that for something? So Dan Zandini, who's daylight disinfectant online on X, pretty much nailed the university to the wall, and is going to extract a penance, I think, from them. Pretty remarkable. Yeah,
It's the part of one of their tactics for silencing people with opposing views, whether it's the whistles or the bullhorn sirens. Another one of their methods.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or putting an umbrella in front of your camera. So that happened to me. Of course, it is what it is. I can see Mike Strickland. I don't know. I know we've talked about Strickland, but that was back in 2016 when he pulled a gun on these guys who were coming out to beat him up again, Antifa members, so he got, of course, jailed and was, he was the one who was penalized for that, not Antifa. But now we know a lot more. I think now we know a lot more.
He was just a journalist down there trying to protect himself against the angry mob who intended to do him harm and Portland with how they run their criminal justice system. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And you were stabbed by Antifa, and there we are. And I don't know.
I often think back to that day too, when If I would have taken the means to defend myself in that situation, I probably would have been imprisoned.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you're the victim, but they don't care about victims actually, unless they're leftists. And you're not a leftist. Sorry, you don't count. No justice for you. Yeah, Portland's terrible in terms of their criminal justice system. Still is. I don't care what you say. It's gotten worse. I don't care if Mike Schmidt's gone. Don't care. Still not great. Still not great. Okay, so what did you see out there? What kind of men are out there who are on the right and on the left? What are you seeing?
I see that they have on the right, you have people who love America. They've been inspired by the recent Charlie Kirk assassination. A lot of people met up at the vigil that they had down in Eugene, and that kind of orchestrated all the way to the ICE facility with people going out there daily after he took over 100, and I don't know the exact count, but over 100-day siege on the ICE facility.
Yep.
And so they wanted to go out there and do a counter protest and give support to the ICE agents. And then when it comes to Antifa and the sense of men, it's hard to categorize them inside of that category.
I mean, well,
Misgendered, and I mean, I guess it's a lot of soy boy energy, I guess, when you really think
I mean, it is kind of weird, isn't it? This is what Gavin. Well, I should. Do I want to do the Gavin Newsom stuff? Maybe not. But let's get to Enrique Tarrio because I have to say Cam Higbee did an excellent. Did you do an interview with him as well? Because I didn't see
I
yours.
just go around.
Okay. But Cam Higbee did, and God bless that kid. Just good stuff. And by the way, really clear. I could actually hear him. There were several others that were, I don't know if you saw that, but some guy from the Mercury was just like, you're not even going to get any. I mean, I've been a journalist for like a long time, and I can tell from a long ways away, hey, you're not going to get any details whatsoever because you're not going to be able to hear what the guy's saying, you dillweed. Anyway, so here we go.
Hey, when they sentenced me to 22 years, were they outside the prisons? Were they outside Freedom Corridor and the DC Gulag? They weren't. So I find it kind of hypocritical that they care more about people that aren't supposed to be here. I don't want to dehumanize those people. They just don't belong here.
Yeah.
The guy from the Mercury, I think, was kind of surprised at how well spoken Enrique Tarrio is. He's speaking in multiple syllabic words and all sorts of things. What is he saying there for those who need a Enrique Tarrio Sherpa to tell them what that was all about?
He's talking about the the hypocrisy of the left when the January 6ers um, were wrongfully and targeted and put inside of harsh conditions inside of the DC jail. Nobody on the left stood up for them or stated about what was wrong. Biden sent the justice system after them, and they did not get the justice that was deserved.
Yeah, they sure didn't. That was pretty remarkable. That was a pretty dark time in our history, I think.
I don't think people realize that the inhumane conditions that they were put in, solitary confinement for years, not seeing daylight for years,
Yeah.
being away from their family. Enrique shared about how he was transferred from jail to jail probably over 40 times.
Unbelievable.
And that was the only ever time that he would ever see other outside contact. And so these people were tortured. They were put inside of a gulag, and it was all because they were political prisoners and they defied the left's narrative, and nobody on the left would stand up for them.
He is talking a little bit more about that. Let's listen.
It makes me feel some type of way that they're here for them, but they weren't there for me. They're supposed to be my fellow Americans.
How many hours a day were you in solitary?
24.
Really?
24 hours.
Seems like an unusual punishment.
You're supposed to let inmates out for an hour, but they had us like terrorists, so we couldn't even go out on the yard. So I spent 3 years by myself.
Yeah.
You know, besides the time that I had to go to trial.
How much of that time that you were in prison in 24-hour-a-day solitary confinement, was that before you actually got convicted?
It was about a year and change before I got convicted.
And you were still in solitary?
And I was still in solitary before and after. And I was transferred to 40 different federal prisons, federal holdovers, and county jails. You know, I think that's a record. Apparently, I like breaking records. 22 years, longest trial in DC history, biggest case in DOJ history with the most voluminous amount of discovery. So there's two Americas, right? And in 2016, you know, you could debate things. You could say, well, I disagree with you on immigration. We've come to a point where these two groups, right, aren't compatible with each other. I'm not going to pretend that I know a solution to that, but I don't see a solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. I mean, he's talking about stasis. Our previous guest talked about the fact that we are at a pivotal moment, and Victor Davis Hanson says that we are in a revolution, and you and I and others like us are part of the counter-revolution. It's pretty frightening right now.
The Biden administration used political bias to target January 6ers and to trump up their charges and put them through basically torture. And so they deserve every bit of these lawsuits that are coming out and the retribution against the politicians that use the criminal justice system as a weapon to silence political opponents.
No, I know you've done a lot of work in Portland and you follow Antifa along and keep track of them. And I want to know if you've ever seen this video by the X user called Bad Kitty Unleashed. And she says, and indeed, Andy No has found at least one Antifa person who was in the crowd on January 3rd. She marks several people. I want you to check this out.
Oh, damn! That was the fucking wrong.
That guy. Multiple people, woman, man, two men. There's the other woman from New York.
How are you doing today?
She's
I
Portland.
recognize you from Portland. Hey, so you got Antifa here too. You got Antifa and Trump supporters within the same vicinity here for the same thing. This is absolutely fucking crazy.
The whole world is watching as America is being destroyed from within.
Yeah, well, she put that in there, as you know. Just when they get shot by less than lethal that were turned lethal.
Hey, fire! Hey, fire! Hey, you good?
Okay, so we don't need to see the rest of that, but would it surprise you at all to learn that there may have been people from Portland, Antifa members in the crowd?
Not at all, because part of what they do is they want to destabilize, and part of that is creating the lawlessness and creating dysfunction. And so for them to go down there and dress up and try to play the part and make it look bad, I don't see that being too far-fetched out of the ordinary.
I'm going to play just one thing more for you. Actually, two more things. I'm going to replay part of the cut I just just played for you.
Fire is this about fire. That was my bar? No, you're good. I got that on camera. You're good. You're damn. That was the fucking wrong.
Okay. That guy. That guy's a large guy. Okay. And I'm wondering if it's this guy.
All that pepper. All that pepper.
His shirt is
Mm,
disgusting.
I'm
Isn't that
not
interesting?
sure.
I don't know. I mean, obviously a different hairdo, but it's been like years. That guy. I saw, there's not always somebody that large in a contingent. We've seen the guy who started the situation against Mike Strickland, Ben Carenza, and he was 400 pounds. But this guy, not the same guy, but this guy seems awfully.
All that pepper.
That's the guy that was eating, like he probably ate paste too when he was a kid, but he was eating pepper ball stuff.
That's his name's Big Mike. He self-proclaims himself as the president of the Antifa, and so it's just another left-wing LARPer that's out there trying to be in the spotlight.
Now, somebody messaged me over at PJ Media, where I write a lot, and said, this guy has been threatening his family. And the reason that he is because they fly a pro Donald Trump flag out in front of their house. And he's been reported multiple times to the cops, and they don't seem to do anything about it. It's kind of interesting.
No, and there's another guy that's been down there, who carries that Captain America shield, who's been sending different females on the patriot side of the movement, threatening and disturbing and deranged messages to their inbox,
To
basically
who?
on a daily, to different women within the movement,
Oh,
multiple people. And we're not just talking about one; we're talking about several. And he's sending deranged, disgusting messages to their inbox that are threatening and trying to intimidate them and trying to make them scared to be out there. And so he got called out on that this weekend. And
this guy, Big Mike, or somebody else?
not this guy, the one
Okay,
that
it was a
carries the
different guy.
Captain America shield.
Okay.
So I know
Oh.
about the threats from that guy, but I'm not aware of any of the threats specifically with this guy, other than that he still claims to be the president of Antifa, which
I think they're all saying that right now. Remember when everybody said, "I'm the president"? The people, I don't know if you know this, but there are people in Hillsboro, which is a bedroom community outside Portland, who decided that they were going to stop the ICE people and block them in with their cars in Hillsboro, and then rode on the front of one of the ICE vehicles and basically got in the way, and which is a federal offense. And I don't know that I keep looking to see if they've been brought up on charges yet. But I was but she calls herself the president of Antifa because it's a big laugh. Ha ha ha. Because Antifa doesn't exist, so therefore I'm the president. Remember that when they were trying to reinvigorate that stupidity. Oh, Antifa doesn't exist. Anyway, does Antifa exist? Black
they'll
rebel.
be careful what they they'll be careful what they wish for when they get charged federally.
Yeah, I know. In fact,
But
I might just, make sure they see it. I probably will just make sure they see it because it was just like, really?
But to answer your question, regardless of how much the left tries to shadow Antifa and act like they don't exist, and you'll see monologues of people saying that it's just an idea. I have scars, multiple scars on my body that says otherwise. I have seen what they are capable of. I have seen the political violence that they bring upon cities, and I have seen them attack multiple innocent women, including women, and seen them attack children, seen them beer mace children in Portland, seen them attack Christian events, seen them attack precincts, see them burn down precincts. Like they are very much more than just an idea, and they are a threat. And I'm glad that the government and Donald Trump is doing what they can to label them as a domestic terrorist organization, not only here locally but nationally as well, across internationally as well.
Yeah, I think you've been sort of cheering that on for quite some time.
I wanna see the extermination of the problem and
Not the people. He's talking about the problem.
the
Now
problem
he's talking about the idea.
exactly of
Right. Yeah.
the within their networks with the funding that's involved, millions and millions of dollars that they use to help and aid and abet their inside revolution.
Well, we've done a couple of shows. In fact, I think 4 programs recently on the funding aspect of it. We've done it from several different vantage points, but Antifa is very nicely compensated for doing its revolutionary tactics to bring chaos to Portland and keep the pressure on and stay in the streets, which is what it's all about. What are your insights about that? I mean, for me, it's just like they keep wanting people, they keep telling us, the politicians do, we got to stay on the streets. We got to stay on the street. And it's like people are, for example, I've had multiple reasons to keep people in. There was anti-Elon Musk, get in the streets. No Kings, get in the streets. And Epstein, get in the streets. And it's just like, and you know, where do you get your Epstein prize? You know, that old Chris Rock thing. Where do I get my OJ prize? Well, where do you get your Epstein prize? Who's a winner? It's the people who are in charge paying out, who want more power to arrogate toward themselves. That's my opinion. What is yours?
I mean, it's all part of the Soroses and the ones of the big time funders. When you look at like the Portland Freedom Fund that raised millions upon millions of dollars to just go bail out rioters, it shows those who are out there on the streets that I can go out there and do whatever I want. Somebody's covered. Somebody has my back, and so they feel like they can go out there and wreak havoc without consequence. And there's there's going to actually start being some consequence against that. And so it is, I'm happy to see that Donald Trump is starting to go after their finances and starting to link different of these nonprofits and stuff that's been embezzling the money into helping these domestic terrorists.
So what do you think the end game is? I want it in your words.
The end game, well,
Mhm.
hopefully the end game is for the right and the left to be able to live in unity, but history seems to show us that we're just splitting farther and farther apart. And so the end game that I would like to see and the end game that is probably the end game that we're actually going to experience is probably two different things.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it's some we can reach comedy of some sort, you know, we can reach an understanding of some sort.
And I
Let me
believe
get
that the right does have the tolerance that it takes to bridge the gap, but it takes both sides to be willing to bridge that gap. And
what does it look like to do that? What do you think?
have conversations, respect one another's opinions, realize that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves, and that's humanity. It's at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Recently, we've got people who are trying to drown out voices on the right at these places, from Portland to the University of Oregon to the college in Utah when they silenced Charlie Kirk. Sounds like they're not willing to listen.
You have one side that is not tolerant, it's like what they're trying to preach. They're really gaslighting when they preach tolerance. And it makes it really hard to find that unity when you have another side that wants to kill you. When no matter what you do, when you want to stay in the moral zone of things, you have the other side that is willing to play dirty. And so we're in a hard spot, but at the end of the day, this is when we have to put our foot down. And when those times come, we have to fight back. This is not the time to get complicit. This is the time to stand your ground and stand up for what is right.
True. And that's, you know, brings us to the beginning of the conversation today on the Adult in the Room podcast. And it was how we are begging and screaming. It may not be loud, but it's a desire in our hearts to have partners, people who, well, a lot of women are strong. We need men who are equally strong, who can come alongside us and to help lead the way forward. So
it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It takes a village, is what I heard Enrique say over the weekend. When we can do what we can for our own community and do what we can to help grow it and prosper and raise our kids with morals on what we want to see this future of this country to look like. If the liberals all stop having kids, it's the best thing for this country.
we need people. We need immigration. But we don't need illegal immigration. We need to be able to pick our own team. And that just makes
Western civilization and Western values and respect this country.
I agree. Did you see what Governor Abbott did in Texas? I don't know why I'm blanking on his first name, but Greg Abbott. He signed an executive order that CARE will be now considered to be a terror organization. I don't know if he could do this statewide, but he's making an effort. And to outlaw Sharia courts, which he already has, I think, a couple of them. And so in the state of Texas, I mean, how can you have a two-tiered system of justice? I mean, we already know how it happens, but you can't have an entirely different way of doing justice that is antithetical to Western values, as you say. Yeah. So
Sharia law has no place inside of this country. It does not work. I know that it's popping off in Dearborn, Michigan with the protests as we speak.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that New York City does not go down that path, because that's one of the biggest economies for cities inside of this country. And it's going to be an eye opener for a lot of people who were deceived with that.
Well, Real Black Rebel, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the Adult in the Room podcast, and I'll say goodbye so you can go check on what's going on in Dearborn. Is there any violence that you've seen so far?
A little bit. I heard Cam Higby got mazed. Jake Lane may have got mazed, and there's some other people that's down there as well. So,
was it by the leftists or their friends on the far?
Muslim
Interesting
issue that's going on with this specific protest.
Yeah, interesting. Well, all right. Thank you. Keep watch as you do. So very well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hope you can come back. That is true. He is the Real Black Rebel and _ on X. And he is going to, goes to all kinds of events because he loves this country. And he, of course, was stabbed by Antifa in Portland in 2019. It was always interesting because I didn't know it was him who got stabbed. And I only recently in the last, I don't know, year and a half saw the video. And of course now I thought, well, I haven't seen video. I knew a black activist and somebody who was a journalist was stabbed. That much I've known for years. Did not know who it was. And I didn't know where to find the video. I kept looking for the video. I just never saw it. One outlet has that video, and I'm sure he's got it because, but I didn't see his. I saw the Oregonian newspaper had it. It's so very interesting. Okay, couple of things to take care of before we have to go, and it is the Epstein stuff. The House today, the U.S. House of Representatives, voted in an almost unanimous vote. Only one person voting against releasing the Epstein files. And of course it was it was basically, can I just be honest with you? It was okay. How do I put it? It was a garbage time vote. It was a cheap vote. Okay. Release the Epstein files. Fine. Well, we've already released 33,000 Epstein files, and 11,000 of these Epstein files cannot be accessed because, well, we hope they can be, but I mean, let's face it. Those are the ones that have privileged information, the victims, and also, but everybody wants them. Well, you can't just by fiat or a vote of the Congress, the House say, well, we want those and we want you to pierce grand jury testimony and the sanctity of the grand jury. You can't do that. Come on, man. Can't do that. So what they did was they did it anyway. It was sort of a pro forma, whatever. 11,571. God, I'm doing paper. Okay. Documents related to Jeffrey Epstein have not been made public. 32,200. Well, it's, whatever. It's like 34K pages of Epstein related records have already been released. And then, of course, when the Democrats released some of them, I'm sure President Trump knew that they were going to do this. His name appears in like three of the Epstein emails. And one was by a guy who hates his guts. And it was working with Epstein to construct a narrative, conspire if you choose. And it really didn't say anything about Donald Trump and any relationship necessarily to Jeffrey Epstein. And a couple more references were just like, okay, so what does this even mean? Things taken out of context. So now we'll be able to see the context. And that would be nice. Here's what I have. Here's a question. I want to make sure do I have this? Oh yeah, this is awesome. So this is you may have seen this video already. It is the delegate from the Virgin Islands who was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing when Michael Cohen, that was Trump's former personal attorney, was being questioned. The Washington Post got this. So this is a video of, what they came up with. There's not much sound here. The Post reviewed multiple video feeds.
Was president of the United States.
Watch her check her phone.
And while
She's
we were
looking down.
driving through a struggling neighborhood
And he
in
says,
Chicago,
she's chewing gum.
he commented
He's
that
telling her
only
not to
black
chew.
people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even.
She's reading a message saying, ask him about Rona. Ask him about Rona. And now she's thinking, is that an acronym? What is that? And Rona was the name of Donald Trump's personal executive assistant.
Today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have
Rona?
suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today. It was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals?
He just told her what the name is, and she asked about the name. So I don't know. Is it better to be Donald Trump and have kicked out the guy from your club years before, knowing that he was a weirdo and he was coming on to some of the kids of his members at Mar-a-Lago? Is it better to be that guy? Or is it better to be this gal who knows the guy's a total pedophile and bad actor, okay? And is texting with him. I don't know. And then Larry Summers, the former head of Harvard University, this guy's toast. He hung around with Jeffrey Epstein apparently all the time. And Reid Hoffman, waiting to find out the details from that. That's the guy that Elon Musk said, oh, he's on the list. He's on the list. Well, the list, we already seen the list. The list does have him on there, as a matter of fact. But what does that list mean? Does that mean he just did business with Jeffrey Epstein? Did they have mutual interests? Maybe not girls, underage girls. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But you better be careful what you wish for, because it's going down. And now if everything is out, they can't release the names of the victims, can they? And by the way, the victims keep showing up on this loop on X and probably Blue Sky too. I have a Blue Sky account. It's probably there. And if everybody on the left's going, listen to the women, listen to the victim. Great, listen to them. They're not naming names. Do you know why they're not naming names right now? They would rather put out videos to make it seem like something really nefarious is going on, which of course it did. And they were victimized. I assume that these are legitimate people who are making this video. They don't want to say anything because they don't want to get sued by these people. They don't want to get sued. So they're waiting for Congress to read their comments so that they can be covered by the speech and debate clause of Congress. And Congress cannot be sued for that. But those chicks could. That's why they're not saying anybody's name. And we already know Trump had nothing to do with it. So, this constant barrage of, yay, let's get Donald Trump. Get over yourselves. There's nothing there. If there had been, do you think for 1 second Joe Biden would have let that go after he did everything? He raided freaking Mar-a-Lago to get back the information about the Russia crap. They wanted that back because Trump had the goods on the FBI and the FBI director. So, come on. If they're willing to do that, if they're willing to try to put that guy in prison for 100 years on any number of charges, 97 charges they had him on, if they're willing to force him to sit in a New York courtroom to talk about paying the non-disclosure agreement, the NDA with a stripper, And it's just, I mean, it's garbage time, man. It's just, okay, whatever. You may think that she's the best thing since sliced bread. Great. Yeah, you love her as much as you love matcha. Okay, got it. But it was a nothing burger. Okay, 0. So what happened? Nothing. If they're willing to do that, you think if they had the goods on Trump, they'd have to get Reid Hoffman to bankroll the the columnist for a newspaper who claimed that she thinks maybe it kind of happened that Donald Trump abused her in a, was it Bergdorf's changing room? Is that what it was? She didn't even know. What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? What year? What was she wearing? And then we find out what she claims to have been wearing, but hadn't even been made yet. So I mean, you can buy that kind of bad juju. You can buy that. Anyway, Joe Biden would have rolled that bad boy out. Are you kidding me? Hell yeah, he would have done it. And did he? No. Why? Because even his attorney came out. I just saw his attorney at the time, David Schoen, put out a tweet and said, there's nothing in anything having to do with Jeffrey Epstein against Donald Trump. 0. What the hell are you doing? Anyway, so now it's going to come out, or whatever it's going to come out is going to come out. And I always thought Trump was trying to protect people who had been involved with business dealings with Jeffrey Epstein years ago or whatever. The guy was a financier. He bankrolled a whole bunch of ops. And I mean, and some pretty nefarious ops. Not saying they were illegal, although Iran-Contra, However, okay. So you want to spare those people. Well, now they won't be spared. Kanye 2028. Cedric. Yes. That's pretty funny. That's funny. Oh, well, it's been great spending this hour with you, and I want you to have a great day, and I'll be back on Thursday. Really have a cool show coming up. And let's see, we'll probably talk a little bit more about Thomas Crooks because I didn't get through what I wanted to get through. But just like, why are so many of these shooters people who are sexually confused? What is turning these people to be sexually confused and to get into the furry community? I've gotten to the point where every time I see a furry, if I'm downtown in Portland or Seattle or in San Diego or LA, I just like, what are you trying to convey to the normies out there? That you're untethered? I don't get it. Do you really think you're a cat? Or anyway, I'll see you on Thursday, 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific on the West Coast, on the Adult in the Room podcast. Now remember, keep your head up, your heart out, and always strive to be the adult in the room. Mischief, manage. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.